and there's nothing wrong with worship or anything like that. Right. But the thing is, men have been so desensitized with worship because what they see at other churches is, okay, you gotta be a little soft to be up there. Really. You got to be a little soft to raise your hands.
That's right. Weren't you saying that like, even in some new movie they were all making? Was it you who's saying like they were talking about a choir director was in a movie and they all assumed he was gay? Now this was the same.
Are you talking about the one not Friday but with First Sunday?
Yeah,
with Ice Cube with him. Yeah.
They all made the joke. In other words, why is it that even in the secular movies they all assume that's the joke?
Right. And I honestly forgive me.
No, please.
But that movie was actually written by PK.
Wow.
True story.
Wow.
True story.
Wow.
True story. Yes, he was. Yes, he was.
But you know what else? Get men involved up on the platform. I think you mentioned that one Sunday. That we have women, come up and read the scripture, kind of open the prayer.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
A good mix, because I don't think
Absolutely, you don't want to exclude women
right.
for that, but at the same time, we could be more balanced, is what you're saying. That's why we had John join the prayer team too, because I saw too many women doing, and then automatically men start assuming that's a feminine thing, which is why we need to. I think you really caught on something because our natural, God made us men different, obviously, but if we're bigger, we're stronger. Right. God made us to work, and you just said something, Jerry, that exploded my mind. A lot of the reason why men don't get involved because we're not even using their natural ability to work, to serve. Right. And yet that really hit me right now. You're absolutely right, because that's the thing that we have done, kind of not even thinking about it, but every day we have men come in here serving, and they're excited because they're working with their hands, they're putting this table together, putting this room together, the roofs, and painting walls, and men are coming during the week.
Doing what they know to do.
Absolutely. So we need to tap into that. The natural, hunter-gatherer. I mean, that's what we are.
Maybe what you need me to build today.
Absolutely,
You want a table? Okay.
It goes all back to the whole thing where women, I feel, and we're like, well, I think. You know what I mean? We are different. We relate more to the physical aspects, and man, that was really good, Jerry. Is there anything so that we could
just give everybody, every guy comes in, a hammer.
There you
go. Beat on something.
You get a Bible and a hammer. I love that you're not afraid to put men in roles or in positions that may have been stereotypically women.
Like daycare.
For like, come
on. Oh, absolutely.
Manuel's bones is over our daycare.
That's a man. That's right. Mm-hmm. He's a man. Or sign.
Yeah.
It's not just men. It's men that have passed the test of character.
Absolutely.
Right.
And that's the good thing. I think that there's this major distrust of men with other men. How many men do you know would really trust? I trust every man at this table with my kids. I wouldn't worry that something out of order is going to happen to them because I know you and I know your character. But that's not the typical thing in many churches, and we all know that. So I think that that's another thing is that
level
men got us through the baptism of accountability.
In other words, you've set a standard.
You got to earn that position.
That's important. I agree with that totally. A high standard.
It sets a trust with everyone. This person, before they came here, had to go through these hoops. Right. And a lot of times they're not well defined. And we've definitely defined that here, that before you can even be a leader, you have to be 2.5 years service. Well, by then we know who you are.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because of the intimate relationships that we do through our program called Armor Bearers. I mean, usually people don't make it if they're flaky.
That's right.
But and I mean, when we first, before we started Armor Bearers, I remember, we'd have youth because I was a youth pastor, and people would come in and come out. Come in the moment we required at least 2 years of Armor Bearer, or 2 levels. It's amazing how none of those people flaked out.
That's right.
Because we already knew they were already weeded out through the process. So that's another one. Accountability helps absolutely. The church?
In our men's ministry, in fact, I was talking to a couple of guys about this today, is what I would love to see happen is the concept of armor bearers mirrored in the men's ministry. That is to say that there is a teaching aspect of it that all of the men involved are required to be involved with, along with what you and I were talking about Friday, that there's some actual application, their association with the youth, and things like that. In other words, we need to be doing something as men, but we need to be doing something that's also involved with the youth for two reasons. Because they're being taught, and we're also learning. We're learning from them. We're learning how to be better fathers. We're learning how to be more patient. We're learning how to, to administer properly.
And mentoring.
And
relationship.
Yeah.
You just gave me a thought that I've been thinking, and I've mentioned this, is that, back in the old days, we had fathers, a lot of us did.
Right.
And they took them to their meetings, you know what I mean?
That's right.
And now, I know that in the churches that I've been involved in, nobody took a young man to the meetings.
Right.
And one of the things that you were hitting on that I also believe is that when we start our men's ministry, that every man has a young man that they're bringing.
That's
so
right.
now they're learning, this is part of your service in the church, your service as a man, that men meet, we get together, and we do things. And it's a mentoring process because everyone picks a man. Of course, this man's been pre-approved. All the accountability factors, or maybe even a woman who doesn't have a husband there, but hey, once a month, and this man takes that young boy, teenager, whatever, to the men's meeting, go through the meeting, and then afterwards take them out again, something, and that's only once a month. How hard is that?
Or even our own sons.
What a process!
Because how are they going to learn to be men if they don't watch us interact as men?
Right.
You taught me something extremely important one day when we were talking in our marriage classes about how some people, when they and their wives have conflicts and things like that, they send the kids out of the room and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And you said that sometimes that's just not the way you operate. And you said that the reason you do that is because how are your sons going to learn how to properly address a woman if they don't see it modeled? And I think that that's extremely
And we need to
important.
give a warning here. A lot of people don't believe you should ever allow your children to see them argue. And I admit that that's pretty controversial. But I allow our children to see us argue because exactly how are my boys going to learn how to deal with their wives? How is my daughter going to learn to deal with... Now, there's some subjects, obviously.
Sure, absolutely.
But I believe in general, like we had one last night. We had a good argument. And then they all go, but it's done and it's over. But that's reality.
Yes,
That is
that's
reality.
That's just reality, and I just maybe I'm a little too transparent, but I believe again, how they know? Because we have all these people that my parents never argue. Well, number one, that's just not possible.
That's a
And then they don't know, and they have this
fallacy.
and they have this fake reality what marriage should be because they never heard them argue.
Absolutely.
So that's where that comes from. Letting my children see us argue and going through the process, as long as it's rated PG. You know what I'm saying? Are we lacking a lot of male mentoring, peer tutoring? Looking at how a man deals with things.
I think that we're headed in the right direction. I think the fact that we're talking about it is a great first step. What has to happen? We just need to be focused on it. Just like any of the other things that we've identified and started to move an improvement in, it's just one of those areas. And it's going to help us too, because the more we talk about it, the better at it we'll get.
Bagels with Pastor Joe. Yeah, it's nice, huh?